Why is it important to have an introduction? It's for two reasons. It's for you as the audience so that you can reset your internal clock. Now you can get ready for something else, and that's what the Toastmaster through the introduction helps you do. So it smooths the transition from one part of the meeting to another, helps us switch gears. It puts your audience in the proper mindset, and it sets the speaker up as an authority. Now in Toastmasters it's a little different because we practice here for the real world. And if you were a speaker outside of Toastmasters, like next week at the Chamber, we want to be known as the authority. Why else would we be speaking for 40 minutes to a captive audience, right? They need to know who we are and why we're speaking, why we're credible. So our intro should answer these questions for the audience. Why should I pay attention to you? Why do I care what you're telling me? And why is this important to me? What is my takeaway? How will this change me? General essentials, we know all of these, right? Speaker's name, the topic, and the title. That's why we would go to see any speaker. We would want to know at least this information. But for Toastmasters, we have three other things that we want to share with our Toastmaster audience, which is speech assignment, the objectives, like icebreaker today, we're going to get to know Chelsea a little better, and our delivery time. Because we put the time on our agenda, we don't necessarily have to say it because we can see it, but totally fine if you want to. How many people have seen this form? The speaker intro. Denise, your VPE, sends this to you before your first speech. And then you need to keep a copy of it. Yours might look slightly different than this, but the information up here, you fill in the blanks and you send it to the Toastmaster. And wow, when you're Toastmaster, having this to help make that segue and help introduce your speaker, how great is that? You fill in your name, your project number, and so forth. That covers the first 6 things we just talked about. Now we get to the hard part. The 3 to 5 sentences that you need to come up with and craft. This needs to be short. We don't want a 2-minute intro here. We want an intro that lasts for 35 to 45 seconds for a 5 to 10-minute speech. The last thing that the Toastmaster is going to say is your speech title, because that's the thing we want you all to remember as the person comes up. And the applause is a segue. So the Toastmaster, I'm going to step right in front of here, the Toastmaster is going to lead the applause, extend his or her hand, and that gives the speaker enough time to come up and get comfortable in front of all of you. Those 3 to 5 sentences, what should they say? What should you cover? You should answer those questions. What's in it for the audience? Why do they care? What makes it interesting or relevant to anybody in the audience? And what do you hope to achieve? What's your goal in sharing this? And then also why you, in Toastmasters again, a little different, why any of us? Because we're here, because we want to improve, because we're Toastmasters. Why you outside of Toastmasters? That's where you would put in maybe some credentials, some experience, a paper that you published, whatever that is. Here is my introduction. I'm going to read it to you. Our first speaker is Rebecca Murray. Rebecca will be speaking from the Better Speaker Series project, Creating an Introduction. Rebecca has written dozens of introductions for herself and others. She believes a proper introduction sets the stage for both the speaker and the audience. Today, she will share tips for both speaker and Toastmaster on crafting and delivering introductions. Please help me welcome Rebecca Murray, sharing her speech, Craft and Control Your Intro. And that's exactly how you want to deliver it as Toastmaster. Now, if I had just handed you my introduction and you had seen it cold, I bet you would not, you might, but I don't know if I would be able to deliver it like that. I can deliver it like that because I have practice, and the only way that you as Toastmaster are going to be able to deliver it like that is if you get it ahead of time. And that's the speaker's responsibility. We're going to go into that in a second. I did a word count on this. Do you know in the word the word program, the word application, that you can use a tool called word count. Everybody speaks at a different rate of speech. Average between 120 and 150 words per minute. So if I'm looking for an introduction that's going to range between 35 and 45 seconds, 74 words, that's right on. That is from the very first word out of my mouth until my applause, where I welcome up the speaker. Okay? So time it yourself, because sometimes we can use long words and that might change things up a bit in terms of the pacing. When you finish this form, again, you will get it from Denise, and keep it so that you can use it again and again. You send the completed form first to the Toastmaster, also the Vice President Education, just in case, because she'll usually have a copy here, just in case. And then the Evaluator, it's nice for them to get it too. That's optional, but I'm going to recommend that. Send it to your Evaluator so they can be better prepared to evaluate you. Toastmaster Responsibilities. Pronounce the speaker's name correctly. If you have a name that you know people struggle with, and you would know this probably by kindergarten, right? Or if you get married and you end up marrying somebody, Joe supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, then you are going to reach out to your Toastmaster ahead of time and say, hey, you know, a lot of times people struggle with my name. Let me help you with that in advance. There's nothing more embarrassing for the Toastmaster and for the speaker, and uncomfortable for the audience when you get the speaker's name wrong. That's embarrassing. And you're like, I wish I could just rewind this meeting and start over again. Practice the entire introduction aloud several times and time it yourself. If it's too long, if you feel like, hey, this is a minute and a half, it's supposed to be 35 to 45 seconds, then recraft it. As a Toastmaster, or in the real world, Master of Ceremonies, that's what you do. You recraft things. Shorten up those sentences, cut something out that's not even related to what this person's talking about. Like, for example, picking on Jeremy again, the photo booth. All right, let's move on. That's going to be a joke forever now. He's going to fire me. He's not going to hire me anymore. All right, speaker responsibilities to Toastmaster. This is equally important. If you know your name causes confusion, seek out the Toastmaster. And did you notice today there was no lectern? See, I said it right this time. Didn't I? Yes, lectern. Because I didn't want to have the sergeant at arms or Jeremy have to fumble with that while I'm coming up. That's not always possible. In our other club, we have a podium that we move out of the way. Now, if I'm telling a story and I want to be here, I don't want to have something blocking me, then I'm going to reach out to the Toastmaster ahead of time and say, hey, could you please move that for me before I come up, right? So that I'm the speaker. I should not have to deal with that. And then Jeremy can reach out to the Sergeant at Arms and say, hey, could you help me out here? I think we should time it like this for Rebecca, all right? So be clear with what your needs are. Speaker's responsibility to the Evaluator. Bring your manual. Bring your manual. And let the Evaluator also know your personal goals from this project so they can give you some feedback on those as well, how you met those. Lectern Etiquette. And I just want to make sure on the timing, you didn't start while I was setting everything up, right?
No, not what you were saying.
Okay, great. Lectern Etiquette. When you are giving your introduction, speak to the audience. How are you going to do that if you've just been given your introduction? There's no way that you can. You need to practice. So you need to get it ahead of time. For those of us as speakers, we need to at least get it to our Toastmaster at least a day ahead of time, maybe 2. You lead the applause, as we already covered. You shake hands. And when you leave the lectern, if the speaker's coming this way, you're going to leave this way, and vice versa, because you never want to cross in front or behind of your speaker. It just looks awkward. And show interest. When I'm down there taking a picture and I see the Toastmaster, who usually sits here or here, reading something and not paying attention to the speaker, I'm not going to take that picture and post that on Facebook, right? You, as the Master of Ceremonies or Toastmaster, you need to show interest for everybody up here. This is your responsibility. All right, conclusion. There's a whole nother class that I could do on introductions outside of Toastmasters, which have a lot of other elements involved, but I need to wrap it up here as I see the red card. And I hope today that you can take information away to craft and control all of your future introductions, Mr. Toastmaster.